I'm not even sure.
The martial art movies.
Yeah. That's definitely the martial art movies writing. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. Yes.
Yes.
Easy. All right, boys, you ready? Call them to order. Let's go.
Islam.
Islam.
There you go.
Almost face the east. Father on the left and on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
The Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Jalali.
Islam. Give thanks, Mark. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors, ordered to reach proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive the reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by the prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cardon button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble to Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Ali. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near. So says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Ali. And that is why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Ali. Islam.
Is that an update for? I talk next week. Sunday we'll get elaborate, which is behind the restaurant that's on the main thing, and we'll give you more,
We'll get an email out.
directions. That'll be at noon to 3. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be at Hamilton, yeah. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, we're thinking, something like, 50s.
A place called Christie's Conservation.
Beverage Park, which is just by the water.
Christie.
And we have, Christie's Conservation.
All right, so we'll give you more details as to that. We may want to meditate on whether, because I think that next weekend that I plan to have will be the Labor Day weekend. Maybe it might make sense to set it off for the weekend afterwards. If you do, I don't know. Are you feeling about that, or whether we want to? I guess we should run class, right? Still.
Well, for us,
For Labor Day
so.
weekend, which is 3 weekends from now.
Was Sunday?
No, well, remember Labor Day is the Monday. It's always the first Monday.
Oh, that's the holiday weekend. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Huh?
Should be all right.
No, but you're saying, what are you feeling though? So I was thinking part of it, maybe we should be looking at time to give those times off on
Oh, with the
family.
Yeah,
days, so we can-
yeah.
So maybe we can meditate on that.
Right.
But it'll either be, as I said, Hamilton will either be the Labor Day weekend or possibly the weekend after. Just depending on the energies. But next week, Hamilton. Next week, Hyde Park.
Where are we meeting in the park?
Well, there's a restaurant, which is, and as I said, I get the name, but as you go into Hyde Park, the road leads you around to the restaurant. Right behind the restaurant is where we're going to be.
There's only one restaurant.
Right. I can look it up right now for you.
The Garden Cat.
Huh?
It's called the Garden Cat.
Right. So right behind there is a room meeting spot for us.
So we wanted to go through some of the Red Book, the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood, with regard to us taking the position of this, that, like Nobu Juali said in the intro, the letters to be read every meeting, that this is our thing, right? It's not Omar, Kudro, even Juali said that it's yours. So what type of position are you taking with regard to this being yours? And the importance of us showing some level of national standard, so that we're able to govern ourselves. You know what I mean? According, right? Yeah, every seat's open here. You straight. Right. So one of the things that we wanted to go back to was the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood, and this literature coming about with the Holy Quran being selected information from all around that Nobu Juali compiled, so that we can sort of figure ourselves out without having to go study all these different things that he studied. When we get to the Mystery of the Silent Brotherhood, there's things that are revealed in there that stress the point of us having to govern ourselves, us having to take the reins, if you will, right? So this is chapter 8, the Council of the Seven of the World. And we're going to go from verse 15. And Vidyapati said, "Our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wilds and at him cast their lamps. and they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest for men. The night is dark. The heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed. It is already dead. Its greatest needs are graves and funeral chants. The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest, enables him to go alone and lay his offerings on the shrine of Allah. If anybody have any thoughts on that?
Can you read that one?
No problem. And Vidyapati said, our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wilds and at him cast their lamps, and they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest for men. The night is dark. The heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed. It is already dead. Its greatest needs are graves and funeral chants. The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest, enables him to go alone and lay his offerings on the shrine of Allah. If anybody has any thoughts on that, we should start there.
It's a passage that seems very current, definitely. And I love how it speaks to the madness that's going on right now, especially. And that even within it, each one of us as a self needs to still strive for the godliness, strive to be their own Allah, you know? Because you can't count on any other person to bring that light. You gotta shine.
Anybody else?
Similar to what it is, like every man is own lawyer. It's a phrase that people quote, but in terms of putting it in practice, there's no dependency on another intermediary between you and your higher self. Your higher self, once you can capture that, you are high self, Lord, and that's fullest. So,
Any other thoughts?
well, yeah, I mean,
I was just going to say, how about you since you wanted me to read it twice?
it's right there, right? I mean, it's now like, you know, for yourself, you know, you gotta lead self, right? You know, there's no middleman no more, you know?
Yeah.
You know, there's no more middleman. It's go to, you know, closest place to find knowledge, near the heart, right? So just, you know, you can't go to a pastor, someone that's the next physical being, that's a reflection of you, you know? Get answers from him, and well, if there was ever a time that was going on, like that, but those days are gone, right? The age of Aquarius, age of knowing, you know, the water there, so everybody's gonna be getting knowledge, and we're gonna take it for what it is, and then pass it on, and we'll study it, study what you know, be what you know, and then, you know, hopefully you can pass on that knowledge to whoever else knows, wants to know, and not believe, right? Because that's the precept, you know, and they God on that, right? It says with God on that, you know. Which, you know, it shows in the media too, right? You know, they talk about the priests and, you know, their little, you know, organizations and stuff, and what they've been up to and whatnot.
Yeah.
Imagine crazy or whatever, right? And then you got even the pastors, you know, like, there's a whole bunch of, I was reading a thing and there was an article that was, made a headline actually on the news. And the pastor came out of who she really was, you know? And they fired her over there. Like, the congregation got together and decided she wasn't fit to be that anymore because of her true identity. How crazy. You know? Yeah, so crazy. A broken, shattered, or deranged condition of mind. Insane. So, to piggyback off of what you said, it says the priest.
Canaanland.
Follow up on what you said. The priests have gone mad, right? And they cast their lights at the darkness of the Lord Lord songs. So it's I would like to say symbolically telling you that the knowledge you cannot go to them from. You cannot rely on them because they're going to give you the Lord stuff. So that's all they know now.
So it's good. Yeah. So, funny they mentioned, Joe, you mentioned the statement, Saturday man.
Saturday.
Priesthood.
Yeah.
Saturday man, right? And just interesting in this day and age that we're talking about now, it almost doesn't matter, like mainstream Islam, you know, imams and all these people, rabbis, all these
pastors,
people,
preachers,
in terms
whoever.
of what's really animating them behind the scenes, they'll give you the public face. But a lot of it's coming out now in this day and age that people are still going and flocking to them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see it at this point in time that those men are driven by forces other than what we speak of. You know, what else can we say for it? It's coming out completely in the open in almost every discipline, whether it's mainstream Islam, Judaism, Christianity, all the above. So I think that's what it mentioned in that quote. He said, Saturday man. You calling that Saturday man, which are really, worshipers of Saturnalia from way back when.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very, very interesting.
Saturn, another way of saying that, vineyard.
Right. So, right. One thing Saturnalia is just like demonology. In a way, what Saturn actually represents in some higher circles. The whole thing, why, these guys go to Mecca and walk around the black stone, whatever amount of times and all that kind of stuff. All that really drives on. All that information is coming up. And also, most of those guys are crypto Jews, even though they act as though, one side is against the other. They're all crypto Jews.
All the marine on it. Everybody in on it. Our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wilds and at him cast their lamps. Right, that's a sign of a madman. That you have the light that's supposed to throw that out and suppress the demon, and you're taking the light and you're trying to throw that at the demon to try to get the demon out of here. And then there's no light for anybody else, because the priest is really the high priest, which are really the Moors, the MAUR, that they were supposed to be the ones that are keeping the light if they're the custodians of all the knowledge of ancient history. So how are they casting the light away knowing that they're supposed to be keeping the light? That's a sign of a madman. You probably don't want that guy praying for you or praying on you or praying on your children or whatever, right? And they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest for men. The night is dark, the heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed, it is already dead. Its greatest needs are graves and funeral chants.
Those are the illusions of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Those illusions, right?
Yeah. Right. So the only thing that they're good for is bury the dead, because they're dead.
No.
They can't do anything else.
And the next passage talks of liberty.
Right? The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest, enables him to go alone and lay his offerings on the shrine of Allah. So, same thing that we were saying about no middleman, that it's not needed to have somebody do whatever for you. So when, for example, with the documents, people will look at it as if the sheiks of the temple are the ones who are supposed to sign the thing and seal the thing, because they're not. Everybody's their own priest. So if everybody's their own priest, then anybody should be anybody's witness. Shouldn't be an issue that you're in the temple and then I can't get witnesses because the sheiks of the temple aren't here and all this type of stuff, or they're not in the mood to sign stuff today, so nobody's not getting anything. Nobody can get anything witnessed, right? And the new age calls for liberty. You want to check that up in there? The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest.
Liberty or liberty?
Liberty. So this was the whole, liberty. So this was the whole concept of Drew Ali making the Moorish Americans the beneficiaries of everything that he presented, so that they can be themselves. They don't have to call themselves reincarnated prophet like some people did or whatever like that. They could just get the information and apply the information to themselves without the title. But people get caught up in the whole fame and nobility of what this is and think that the title is what they need in order for them to be whatever it is that they're claiming that they are. Liberty.
Liberty, freedom, exemption from extraneous control, freedom from all restraints such as are justly imposed by law. Freedom from restraint under conditions essential to the equal enjoyment of the same right by others, freedom regulated by law.
Yeah, one more time.
Freedom, exemption from extraneous control, freedom from all restraints, exempt such as justly imposed by law. Freedom from restraint under conditions essential to equal enjoyment of the same rights by others, freedom regulated by law. The absence of arbitrary restraint, not immunity from reasonable regulation and prohibition imposed in the interest of the community.
So part of Noble Drew Ali's bringing us this freedom or this liberty was by giving us certain things that would allow us to be able to go out there and then be free. Like we had a live last night, and we're going through some of the convention invitees, and you're talking about prominent business people, you're talking about prominent politicians being involved with the convention, right? And not only being involved, but taking whatever it is that they got from the temple and then taking it out to the community. So you have the thing of in the early 30s, you had a lot of Oscar the Priest speeches and stuff like that geared around Constitution and enforcing the Constitution and things like that. And people who are of the Negro black color mindset not really getting what that was about. Because again, they look at him as some black congressman guy when he was next to the prophet in the convention picture. There's no way that guy's Negro. Right? There's no way Drew Ali's gonna go around for all these years telling me you're not Negro black colored and then be chilling with Negroes. Doesn't even make sense. Right? So things that he presented to us, him presenting our headwear and certain things like that to us, was preparing us to be able to embrace this thing called liberty that we never really heard about. But before we even get to the place of going out there and having liberty, there were things that we were supposed to be taught here first to prepare us so that when we go out there, that's what we get, liberty. We don't get all the confusion. And why we go out there and get the confusion is because the priesthood became undead after Noble Drew Ali transition. And then the dead priests have been running the show for the past 100 years. Just like you're saying, from the Christian circle to the Islamic circle to the Jewish circle to stuff that we're dealing with, right? This idea of, you know, the heads and all this type of stuff is really not where it's at right now, right? Everybody's supposed to be able to show themselves approved or qualified, right? Everybody's supposed to show themselves approved or qualified. So one of the things that was presented was the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, which is supposed to assist us in understanding the importance of Constitution. So you want to check that too? Yeah. So, like the national constitution, the divine constitution has 7 acts. There's 7 articles in the constitution, right? Yeah, well,
Yeah.
all right, good.
The Constitution, the organic and fundamental law of a nation or state.
All right, so the fundamental law of a nation or state, constitution. So if we have a divine one of those, then he's taking us into realms that we haven't even been privy to. He's allowing us access to a different way of looking at how we come together as a people. When majority of our people think about constitution, they're only thinking about, you know, the thing out there as the national constitution, and then everything else is just for whatever organization has one, right? Not that these things are relative. That anybody who says we're our organization and then they bring up that they have a constitution, that is supposed to be a guideline for you to know that these people are either a nation or they're a state. So there's certain things that's going to be expected of them. But then when you go to them, oh yeah, we got a constitution, you know what I mean? A constitution of UNIA. Okay, what's your nationality? Oh, yeah, we're black. That's not a constitution. We're Negro, that's not a constitution. Or we're African, whatever. No, that's not a constitution. That's just some little club thing that you're presenting as if it's that. But it doesn't really have that power like that. Jwali gave us certain things which made us powerful. Islam more. Right? Oh yeah, go ahead.
The Constitution, the organic and fundamental law of a nation or state, which may be written or unwritten, establishing the character and conception of its government, laying the basic principles to which its eternal life is to be conformed, organizing the government and regulating, distributing, and limiting the functions of its different departments, and prescribing the extent and manner of exercise of sovereign powers.
Right? So, based on that, this is what Jwali presented to us. And him presenting this to us lets us know that he was there. He wasn't in, this is some organizational thing. Right? He was presenting the divine constitution for us, so we can look at it like what the definition is talking about. Right? Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and Chairman of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, is empowered to make law and enforce the laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In Noble Jwali's time, the whole concept of the Prophet being around, being present, didn't allow people to be dirty or be half-assed. It's no different than when you go to if you've been to what do you call it, cadets military, whatever like that. You got a roll call. You're gonna check your shoes, check your tie, check your stuff, make sure you're straight before anything, before you even do anything. You're about to check your shoes. Shoes not shiny, you're gonna get whatever you get. because there's a certain standard that this is supposed to be, even before we say we're going to go and teach other people or teach ourselves or whatever. There's a certain thing that has to be done, right? There's a certain understanding that has to be had. And then going back to the Red Book, the Grand Sheik and Chairman of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science are priests. When the priesthood is dead, then the Grand Sheik and Chairman is supposed to be a thing that we can throw around to anybody. Anybody's supposed to be able to fill that position, which is what the issue was with Dr. York. That he was a priest, priesthood's dead, but then nobody else had any knowledge relative to the priesthood. Right? Same thing with Noble Jew Ali. So sellouts around him. So once they killed the high priest, Noble Jew Ali, then there was nothing to fall back on, other than these dead priests, whose duty it was to make sure that the people stayed dead, which is why people still black today or whatever. Because the priesthood didn't do what they were supposed to do. Right? But why would they do what they're supposed to do? They're dead. And it really falls back on the people who thought, oh, grand body, and then they're thinking about some heads of Moors or whatever like that, and secret mysteries of the brotherhood of whatever, and they're thinking about, some brothers that have the knowledge and they don't got it, so they're not in the secret brotherhood. That's not where it's supposed to be at. Right? But again, if people want to use this from the perspective of swindle people, be opportunists with this information, then yeah, that's what you're going to have. They're going to be pushing the idea, and then you could go check right now in the Moorish Science Temple, and you just go in there and say, remember, let me ask you a question about whatever. Then you come outside to talk to you, and they're like, well, I can't do it because the Grand Sheik didn't, whatever. Like when we first came into this, we were trying to get Qurans, right? Just for our personal use. So we're, just online, so we're just asking Moors, how do we get the stuff? Well, yeah, come to the temple. Well, where we're at, there's no temple. So all right, well, we could send it to you. All right, well, here's the address. Send me, whatever. Oh, well, we got to ask the Grand Sheik to see if we could do that. What do you mean? You have to ask the Grand Sheik for what? This is the book that Noble Jew Ali brought, yeah. Grand Sheik didn't bring this, Noble Jew Ali brought it, yeah. So what do you have to ask the Grand Sheik for? Well, because, and then they go into, what they were trained to give the response. One of the Moors near Cali had linked me in the week about he's seen a Moor outside of the temple. And the Moor was on him, like, how you wear your fez and all that stuff? You can't wear your fez outside the temple and all this. What kind of Moor are you or whatever, right? This dude's fezless. But he's in the temple, though. And he follows Noble Jew Ali and all this stuff. And he knows the divine constitution back to front. He knows Holy Quran, just regurgitate stuff out of it. But out there, he's just another Negro. Just walking around with this knowledge, which is a disservice, because it lets you know how dead the priesthood is. If the temple's teaching people, only wear your fez in the temple, don't wear it out there. That's a dead temple. Right? But again, that's what we're gonna get, being that the priesthood is dead. Right? Which is why, again, it's not a knock on the titles or whatever. The titles have the power, but the power is going to come from the people activating them, not the guy, I studied 50 years, so I activated the title. No, it's not. It's sovereign power, like the thing said. Sovereign power only comes from the nation. Sovereign power doesn't come from Allah gave me it, or, I was around Noble Jew Ali and we touched elbows and now I got the power and nobody else has it because their elbows don't touch. Touch the hem of the garments and all this.
Kiss the coattail.
Right? That's not how priesthood gets transitioned out, but already got something.
I was just saying, I was reflecting as you're talking about that, just reflecting on the fourth principle, just without throwing out the window.
Yeah.
Freedom. Where's the freedom?
Where's the freedom?
Where's the freedom? Right.
Speaking of the height, team up in the valley.
Mhm.
It's aggressive.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was traveling on the train, and this guy recognized me. We were talking, hey, you have to get out the train, because I'm gonna, in other words, he's passing his stop, but he still wanna talk.
Yeah.
I'm not at my stop yet, but I have to get out. And we continue talking.
Yeah.
And then we see like how you say after the rally, then they do it a different way.
Mhm.
Then Muhammad came up and I showed him because I had my thing in my bag.
Yeah.
I showed him, see, Muhammad is wearing one. How come they're not wearing one now? What happens is
Yeah. Yeah.
so you know, it shows that they did the same thing with him too.
Exactly.
Same thing with even Marcus Calvin. Things I learn now.
Yeah.
I go to the school. I go to Marcus Calvin school. I never learned nothing like that.
Well,
Nothing.
right. And again, going back to the thing, priesthood's dead. That's
Yeah.
why didn't learn anything.
It's there.
Because that was the duty,
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of the people who were around Ojwali at the time, which is even why they even buried the red book in the attic chamber. And it's only because Moors put that out to the public do people know about it like that. Or they wouldn't have known. That would have just been an attic chamber book. When you go to the attic chamber, then you get those lessons, right? Because now you're part of the secret brotherhood because you went through the attic chamber. When all that is a fiction, there's no need for secret chambers. If Drew Ali said I took away all the secrets, what do you mean? There's secret chambers? If Drew Ali said he took away the secrets, how did the secret chambers come about unless by some dead priests?
It's interesting you said that because I gave Sanka the Susan
Yeah.
and I guess he must have read it because we had a conversation that he mentioned sages, like he's saying learning the different sages, and he's explaining to me, and I'm like, that sounds interesting.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So when we look at the concept of the priesthood is dead, and we apply that to where it is that we're at, what we're saying ultimately is not cast away the temple or cast away the grand sheets or cast away the whatever. It's recognize where we're at. Priesthood is dead, been dead. You're not going to be alive again. You're not going to mouth to mouth to the dead priesthood and make the priesthood be alive. Priesthood's dead. And every man has to be their own priest. That's just where it's at. Everybody has to be not just grand sheep, but you also have to be chairman. You have to be treasurer and secretary and grand governor and divine minister, and then going down the list of whatever. You have to be mufti. You have to be everything. There's not going to be one guy that we say, oh yeah, that guy's the whatever, or that sister's the whatever. It has to be across the board that everybody's that. And then once the enemy realizes that, hold on a second, so. All right, so we get Dr. York out of the way, and then 5 guys pop up and say that they're not the head of the thing, without no issues, without any, back and forth, well, who's going to be, and then we want the title of Dr. York and call me Mahdi and all that. You need none of that. You know what's supposed to be done? You're in the background, you're at all the meetings or whatever, all right, then you should know what's going on. If you know what's going on, then step up to the thing. If you don't know, then no wonder this is where we're at. No wonder they bulldoze all the stuff in Atlanta. Make it. Right? No wonder they dealt with it like that. Right? No wonder Nuwapians have nothing now, just like Moors have nothing now. Because there was dead priests around him the whole time. Right?
Why did they bulldoze the place? Or how did what did they say why they bulldozed the place?
But it's not really what they said. It's just nobody stepped up to control it.
So a bunch of bulldozers came and just get out, or
Oh yeah. They got the get out of here or whatever like that. But again, it's well, if we look at it, so he set up all the things, right? All the stuff got built or whatever, and then everything's there. At that point, he himself should have said the priesthood is dead, and then stepped off, and then put somebody else's face there because everything's done already. What you need to be there for? You already did it. He was just, siphoning off some more power. But he didn't have to. He already like you're Dr. York, bro. Like you did everything. Like what more you want to do? Look what you did. You know what I mean? In this little rural area or whatever, where all people do is complain about Negro, black, whatever. And it's not even like they were in some bushes or something. They were right on the highway. People are driving on the highway, seeing pyramids or whatever in America. And people wearing their own stuff and being themselves and whatever. There's the idea of the dead priesthood got transferred to individuals. So the next people in charge, for example, with regard to Nuwapians, the next people in charge, they were so dead that they started talking about not Nuwapian Nation of Moors anymore. They started talking about Tamarains and Nuwapians and all this stuff, and they completely eliminated anything quote unquote Moorish that was in that. Like got rid of it. So we already know once Moor's not in there, you're stateless. Then we could bulldoze your shit because you're stateless. You don't count, right? But that was because of the inside. That was because of some colonists. That was because people didn't step up. You know what I mean, right? And once the people who are in charge see that these guys don't got it together. We still got some time. This stuff's not over. Like Dr. York was one of the people where stuff should have been over. Like this stuff should have been done. Because he did the exact same thing that Moors were doing. Declare nationality, claim the land. But once you claim the land, then whatever you do on the land, that's your jurisdiction. Especially places like that where, Constitution is in effect, 100, right? When he was meeting with the mayor of Macon, and they were fighting him about he can't do this and he can't whatever like that. You had to tell Moors they can't do anything. Look, you had pyramids and stuff. Obviously, we can't do certain things, right? There was a group of Europeans who, and this is from people on the inside. There's a group of Europeans who they were on the other side of the highway that were about to give up some acres over there to them. Just on the same strength that, well, obviously, you know what I mean? We look across the eye, we see pyramids or whatever. Yeah, you're the man. What do you need? What do you want? You just say it and we'll give it to you.
We're friendly.
We're friendly. You know what I mean? Right? Like giving up their stuff, not, help giving them some million for them to go buy something or whatever. They were giving up their stuff, how much ever acres it was that they had. They were saying, we'll give you ours to work with. Then you take. We don't want to be in a position of you taking stuff from us, right? Right? When you look at Marcus Garvey, same thing. Get the head out the way, then nobody else is stepping up. Then we got this. Then nobody's stepping up. We got this. It's like let's say even if we use here for example, one day, one Saturday, Yassoon's not here. School closed up? Like shut? Ain't nothing going on? No, probably not. Because the children ain't even gonna let that happen. They want to go.
They will teach them so.
Right.
Did you see them stop with the prayers?
They're doing it right now. They ain't up here. They ain't doing their own thing. Because the priesthood is dead. The only use is graves and funeral chants. But the only reason that the only use is graves and funeral chants because all the people are even dead, just like the priests. All right. Any questions or comments? Before we go on?
There's a camera off what you're saying with the whole, stuff up. I ran into a story of, well, the guy told me how there was a school that was being torn down, and the school had a plaque on it that said, the school is not being used for educational purposes to teach the children, that must go back to the family, the estate, like the grandson, whoever.
Mhm.
But the city wanted to tear it down to build it or whatever, right? So I guess last minute, the grandson of whoever built the thing, the great grandson comes in with the deed and says, like, here, like, and to stop the whole bulldozing process of like everything, Yeah. But just to show you, like, it was really in the process of getting bulldozed until he came with the deed to say, look, no, you're not tearing this down.
You can't do it.
Right? Yeah. So he saved the school from getting torn down. But just to show this perfect example of our stuff, we're not claiming it.
You're not claiming it, then you lose it. It's that simple. You're not going to claim it, regardless of what it is. Rights, property, yourself, body, your mind. If you don't claim it, it's probably already gone if you haven't claimed it yet. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not colored folks, Black people, Negroes, or Ethiopian, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must now proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guiding of his Father God Allah. You got Constitution there again? Read that up again.
Constitution of the organic and fundamental law of a nation or state, which may be written or unwritten, establishing the character and conception of its government, laying the basic principles to which its eternal life is to be conformed, organizing the government and regulating, distributing, and limiting functions of its different departments, and prescribing the extent of manner of the exercise of the sovereign powers.
So during convention time, because of all the corruption that was going on, Noble Drew Ali gave these Moors additional laws to go with the laws that they have already that they weren't following. Then again, because with the priesthood being dead, or the priesthood about to be dead, or the time coming where he wouldn't be able to do everything that he's doing, he give everybody everything now. and get the hell out of the way, and they're gonna do whatever it is that they do with what they got. Right? So in the additional laws by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So this was added on to what we just read. Right? Because again, when you have positions where there's a center of power that people know that, oh, there's power over there. Well, in order to get the power, you have to go through whatever motions. All they have to do is get the individual with the power out of the way, and then they don't have to go through motions anymore. They just do whatever they want, think that that's what it is to do. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon by any members. Let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to remove from office under heavy restriction by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Right? So again, going back to that thing with the priesthood being dead and the power transfer, that it's not just on the Prophet now. Now, Grand Sheikh could make some decisions, according to what Noble Drew Ali said. Right? Why is that? Because he obviously knew he wasn't going to be here. Something was going on that he knew that I can't keep saying the Prophet, the Prophet, the Prophet, and then think that this stuff is going to last. I'm going to have to take the power and then transfer it to different bodies of morals. And again, whoever gets it, they're either going to be, like we read in Divine Constitution, they're either going to be entitled to being faithful, or their actions are going to prove otherwise. And these people's actions proved otherwise, which is why we didn't know that we were Moors. We came out of the womb as Negroes. When we're all supposed to know what's going on. If it was locked down like that in the 1920s in Chicago, and Noble Drew Ali could get Chicago to have a parade and have Moors in the streets parade and all that stuff, there had to be some credibility to his position. Brother Moore.
Okay, so I didn't do it till that or deep Noble Drew Ali went and said, like, instead of being secret, he said this message is for the young and the unborn. So
Yep.
to show you how much. He's not hiding this.
Yep.
The afternoon.
Yep.
And so be it. Young and the unborn. The afternoon.
And also in the oral statements, on top of that, he even said, if my mom's not right, she's not even getting through.
Yes.
So she ought to be right too.
Mm-hmm.
You got something ready? Look like your wheels are turning.
You know what you were saying with the whole thing of, like, you know, as we came out of the womb, we were supposed to, our grandparents or mothers were supposed to know this. Like, Jamaica, right? 1962, I think. Was it the independence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the Prophet left the scene when? 1929, right?
Yeah.
So you were saying we were supposed to have this information, right?
Yeah.
You know, we had the time with, Charles Mossy Bay.
Yeah.
Right? That was what, 1940s?
Yeah.
Right? And then, so what was Jamaica doing, so-called Jamaica, I'm sure they got that information because Cuba even had the air temple over there, right?
Yeah,
So this
but
thing before,
what the whole thing with the islands was get the people to not be the Caribs and the Arawaks.
yeah.
Get the people to be Jamaican, Trinidadian, the independence. Now you got your independence and now you're free. Oh yeah, we got it. Yeah, now we're whatever. But no, you didn't get anything. They just played you out of your stuff, right? So, Maroons is 1800s.
Yeah, right.
So the Maroons were there,
Mm-hmm. And they're still there.
and they're still there today. They're still saying that we're our own government and we're not part of the Jamaican government and all that stuff, talking just like how Morris talk.
They're doing normal ideas.
No?
They're doing normal ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. because
Right to travel.
you're gonna have to get with the program. You can't keep saying we're the indigenous people, but we're just indigenous in this book right here, and some treaty with British. That's why we're Maroons and all this. No, you got to start being the part. If you're the Aboriginal indigenous people, quote unquote Maroons, and they're saying on the same place where there's people that saying that they're Jamaican. If they're saying, well, I don't want to be Maroon because of whatever. It ain't no different than the people over here talking about, I don't want to be Moors because we're black or whatever. It's the exact same thing. They're just using different terms. But it's the exact same thing that's going on. And we know that there's Moors in the territory that went to them and put them on some knowledge of, you guys say that here? So how come you're not doing stuff? This is why they're doing IDs and whatever now.
They're doing that
So
now.
they got checked, right? They got visited, right? Moors checked them, not
Yeah, they're talking
scolding
about
them or whatever. Yeah,
They think that we are getting money from government and all that.
yeah.
Those not on board.
Yeah. Because conceptually, how they're looking at it is as if they're the only ones that could do that or whatever. You know what I mean? With the whole island mentality.
Yeah.
But if they look at it globally, everybody's Maroons. Really and true, like everybody's a runaway slave or whatever. Nobody's not really down with slavery like that. You know what I
All
mean?
lands are surrounded by water. We're all moving.
Everybody. Right? Everybody. Right? That's just what it is. That's just what it is. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And the Marlins boom.
Been Maroons. Been Maroons. Right. Act 2. All members are to attend their audit meeting and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go to your emergency fund. If the member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has no money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Right. And then when we're across the street, we're going to tell people, yeah, when you're late, put $10 in the pot, $5 in the pot, because you ain't just going to be strolling in any time and all that stuff. Certain time comes, the door's going to be locked, you're outside. But then, because priesthood is dead or whatever, people thought we're taking advantage of stuff and, you can't do that. This is our temple and our movement and all this stuff. All right, cool, no problem. Doors open, do your thing. And then people still did the, not being prompt and all that stuff. And that's when there's no structure, the stuff is gonna fall down. The building doesn't have no structure, just walls only. Hear any? Building's not lasting, is it? Right? You know what I mean? Even with Nora, the car doesn't have no frame. It's useless. There's nothing to rest the engine on. There's nothing to put the seats on. You have nothing to put anything on. Right? So all these things were things of structure. It's not being an asshole, or we're charging you guys 50 cents because you're late, and then people are mad. Well, what do you mean? I had to go do something. I had to. It's cool. It ain't nothing. Do your thing. You're late. You gotta put 50 cents in the thing. And then remember, 50 cents back then ain't 50 cents today. Dollar back then is not dollar today. You know what I mean? And then those funds that go in from people being late, from people being fined for certain things or whatever, had to be happening because people were violating. Like how much violating were people violating that he had to make some additional laws to tell Moors, if you don't come to your meeting, we're fining you.
So they were serious.
And that was back then, right? And again, because of the magnitude that it was, we already know that people weren't being punks like today complaining about stuff or whatever like that. They paid their 50 cents and they kept moving. They paid their $1, they kept moving. It wasn't no, pouty mouth and all that stuff because we gotta do this. Why are we doing this and all? You can't do this to us or whatever. What do you mean? Like you're violating. It's not. That's just what it is. You violate. You gotta pay. We could cut your hand off if you don't come to your meetings. If we're dealing with Islamic and all that stuff, you know what I mean? You come here and not tell them more Islam, you could lose your hand. Just because that's standard. That's just what you do, right? Like when we look at when we say the fines and things like that, all these things are what colonists copied off, and now they're beating us with our own stuff, fining us, and then we're gonna go pay that with no question, no challenge or anything. Yellow thing on the car, 500 us. Go down, stand in the line, especially now, or you definitely stand on the line now, right? 6 feet and all that stuff. Line going around the building, people waiting. We'll pay. Fine. Then the real fine that we tell them here, they don't want to deal with that.
Fines are all week.
Yeah, right. Right. You know what I mean? They're not complaining about CRA or whatever. Well, when we say dues, everybody complain. But let's CRA send them a letter, $5 grand. They're pulling out all the stuff to pay CRA.
Make arrangements with paying part.
Make arrangement for partial payments and all this, right? Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. I'm going to have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member. So he's talking to specific Moors. He's not talking to anybody or whatever like that. People walk off the street or whatever. He's talking about the good Moors. The good Moors, if you're able, aid the prophet in saving the nation. Aid the prophet in saving the nation. And if you don't, it's okay. You're an enemy. That's just what it is. If you're not going to assist in the movement in some type of way, then you're an enemy to the cause. And that's through all these words. So when we look at the atmosphere of people who are coming into this, and then they can do everything but assist this, they're an enemy to this. If anybody who's involved in this and they're not paying their way or doing their way or what doing something relative to, especially if they can afford to, right? And they're not, then they're an enemy to this, right? Anybody, we'll just read it from this. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch him. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. And again, think about this back then, right? What type of people were around him that he had to even say this? Like, there are obviously people with some finance around him that weren't giving it up. But probably just like today, they wanted all the Moorish benefits or whatever like that. Well, yeah, we want to be free, and we want a Moorish hospital and all this stuff. We want this and that. That's Moorish. Right, so you got some building or something like that for a established hospital. Like, no, well, you know what I mean? The Grand Sheikh and the Grand what? No, not really. Not really. Every faithful Moor, every good member, every foreign sympathizer or whatever is supposed to be assisting in making this be what it is. And then it's not going to be what it is if the people aren't assisting. It's going to be what it has been. And again, that's going back to the thing of, if we let the priesthood run it, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be another Gujarati situation, Dr. York situation, Khalid Muhammad situation, Fred Hampton situation. You just name them, going down the line. Any type of misdirection that happened with regard to the liberation of our people, guarantee had to do with some people who were supposed to support and they didn't. And their lack of support is what even allowed the colonists to be able to do whatever it is to these brothers and sisters, shut them down, trump up some $3, you know what I mean, stuff on Marcus Garvey, and then get him out the country for some $3. $3. How's he going to Supreme Court for $3 milk run? Supreme Court, highest court in the land. You're taking it that far? They're taking it all the way over there. They're taking it all the way to the Supreme Court. $3. And guilty after that, and deport him. $3. Obviously, some people weren't doing their job in the UNIA. Act 4. All members, while making public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. And then Acts 6 and 7 are the same as, almost the same. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. And so the idea of the divine constitution and bylaws as well as the additional laws, was to get us in the motion of seeing what government is, how government's supposed to run, where the power is vested, how the power is transferred, what's the obligation of all the members that are saying they're part of this, what position are they supposed to have, you know, how is the children supposed to look at this, you know, everything laid down. And then when you take the divine constitution and then you put that with the Quran, then the Quran takes the divine constitution and then breaks it down into some more subparts. Now you have specific chapters now dealing with certain things relative to everything mentioned in the divine constitution. Father, mother, and children, they got their chapter that they could go read so they can get their stuff together. The sincere people, they got their stuff they could read. The people who are about justice, they got their stuff to read. Ones, where does the authority come from? You got magistrate, subject, master, servant, to show you that there's no hierarchy like that, right? Because the servant is just as worthy as the master, because the master is not nothing without a servant. So who's really the man? If the servant is there to serve the master, and the master does nothing, and the servant does everything, and then it's about what you do, not what you say, and all that stuff, then what's the master doing? It's just there, just because? Obviously, he's really the servant. That's why he even tells you in the Quran that, yeah, when you get on top, make sure you treat the European nice. Don't be abusing your power because you're in power and stuff like that. Thinking that we can, because we have this power, we're able to just do things, just violate people and whatever. No, you got principles and whatever. Principle applies to all different nations we deal with, even the enemy, even dirty wars, even whatever. You got to deal with them with the principles. Okay. Any questions, comments? Before we carry on? I'm looking at 1:30. We're doing all right. Prophet announces his authority and power, forced to make changes. All governors and other officers of the More Science Temple are hereby congratulated for their past loyalty and fidelity, for I know it will be the same in the future, because of certain incidents that have risen in some of the temples which seem to come from some acts shown that there are those who do not know where the seat of power is vested. And again, this is during Noble Juali's time when he's here. So if he was here and Moors were being unfaithful or whatever, what do you think happened if they get him out the way? Right? The prophet has ordered the following to be published. And again, you know, things published for the public, and it's not merely for the public, it's really for everybody who's part of the movement. Public, this is just some info because they're not involved with it like that. But the people who are involved with it, them getting these things passed down, and because remember that the whole point of the Grand Chief, Grand Governor, and all these people are to get the information from Noble Juali and then deliver it to the members. But if they're getting this stuff and it's by the prophet, I don't read this to nobody and all that, we're not going to publish this, then the word's not going to get out as to the importance of what it is with Noble Juali even making these changes. And then you have to ask the question, if he's the prophet and he's announcing his authority and power, how come he has to be forced to make changes? Why is he forced? Why doesn't the change just happen naturally? Just like constitution's organic. Come to change just isn't organic. You know, we'll go back to the thing with the fines and stuff like that. Why are you fining people? Like, where is it at that people got to get fined to come to their meetings? And then where is it that people are getting fined because they're late to their meetings? And that was during his time when he was around. right? How much more disrespectful do we want people to be? Until we say, hey, you know what? We gotta watch these people. Around the prophet, they were talking crazy. And then you have people today who are going to tell you that we should listen to these corrupt people who around Noble Drew Ali, they were disrespectful, that he had to find them. What are we listening to them for today? Especially if the priesthood is dead and all that stuff. These are the last people that we should be listening to. We should be in quick order start governing ourselves, or you're going to be governed by these people who sold out the prophet, killed Noble Drew Ali, you know, buried the civic side of the movement, have the whole world think when they see a Moran affairs, oh yeah, there's some religious thing or whatever like that. Until, like you're saying, you bump into one of these people, you talk with them, and then they have a different perspective of what this is. And then the perspective that they get from you, they never even got that when they looked into the temple or researched it or checked it out or whatever. Nothing even close when they actually sit down and talk with them more. Right? No different than people complaining. Yeah, how come I don't want to go on the Canaanland Moore's IG or whatever like that because I don't know what's going on over there. They're mean and all this type of stuff like that. They're talking crazy about people. How can they talk like that? They can't do that. We're Moors and love and all this type of stuff. You ever talk to Grand Sheik on the phone? No, I'm not calling him or whatever like that. I see his comments and all that stuff, man. All right, you stay over there then. You stay over there. Because people who are the Moorish movement, and this is how they do with the Moorish movement, we don't want those people. A lot of people's going to open the door, come in, say what's up, see what's going on, you know what I mean, check it out for themselves, and then make a decision. You're going to make a decision from some virtual reality or whatever, you're definitely not looking at it from the right perspective. All authority and power of the Moorish Science Temple of America is vested in the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and those whom he appoints to act as the supreme body. Those who he appoints to act. Right? So he appointed certain people to the supreme body. And then he got assassinated. And then the people who were acting in the supreme body dropped the ball. And then they passed that dropping ball mentality to everybody else. Right? So everybody's been taught, well, you know, final game, game 7 or whatever, we're going to go for the pop fly. We pop fly, drop the ball. So we can lose. And everybody, oh yeah, no problem. Pop fly, drop the ball. Generation after generation after generation. It became normal to lose the game by dropping the ball. And then you have, you know, CM Bay, you know, Taj, RB Bay. I see certain people that come out here doing the diving catches and stuff like that. Moors are mad. Why are they catching the ball? They can't be doing that. Why are they doing that? We're not supposed to be winning. We're supposed to be losing as Moors. This is where their mindset was at. That when Moors started doing what they're supposed to do with this, teaching people that this is government, teaching people that this is actually civic, teaching people, hey, you know, Drew Ali said enforce the Constitution. You ever read the Constitution? No, where? Am I reading that? That has nothing to do with us. We got divine constitution and bylaws in the Moorish Science Temple or whatever. Like, what? That's it? That's it? Just that only. You know, so you're not going with the national constitution, you're just going to go do it with the temple constitution, and that's it. That's the supreme law. And you want to know how come stuff's not going properly? Right? The prophet has the authority and power to expel any officer or member of the Moorish Science Temple of America who willfully violates or refuses to comply with the rules in regard to branch Moorish Science temples, and such suspensions and expulsions shall stand until, in the judgment of the prophet and the members and officers, shall be made satisfactory atonement. So it's not over for dirty Moors. It's not done for them. They can repent and all that stuff. They come back, you know what I mean, crying, pleading, you know what I mean, we're sorry and all that stuff, whatever. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Fire some dirty more than the general right now. This thing go, really?
Yeah, really, come on, sir.
Yeah, just bring some of that fiat with you.
Because you know you have some dirties out there watching you right now.
Right. You know what I mean? You know? The prophet has the authority and power to expel any office or a member. So if they get no withdrawal out of the way, is anybody going to be suspended when they willfully violate or refuse to comply with the rules in regard to Branchmore Science Temple? It's not happening. That's why it hasn't happened, which is why we have to realize the priesthood is dead. And every man is to themselves a priest. Okay. All officers and members of the Moore Science Temple of America and any such rules and regulations of the Constitution shall be in writing and not at variance with any law of the city, town, or nation which the prophet shall declare law. During this session of the convention, all rules, regulations, and laws of the Constitution and such as might be enacted and ordered by the prophet shall express and explain in detail so that there can be no doubt as to what is required of each and every officer or member of the organization. So he set this up that you're not even supposed to have any questions or issues or whatever. Because everything was laid down point blank. There's no discrepancy in anything. All we have to do is just consider what it is that he brought and go through his stuff. Now, once you go through his stuff, you realize what was laid down. And when you check all these other people who are claiming that they're for the Moorish nation and all this stuff, once they're not doing the stuff Nuhu Jali said, then that's supposed to be an indication to you who these people are. What side of the line are they on? The prophet will positively not tolerate any interference with the operation of the National Divine Movement from anyone. But again, I got him out the way. All right. Any comments, questions? All right, so carrying on. Justice. Justice is that quality of being morally just or righteous. The principle of just dealing, just conduct, integrity, rectitude, one of the four cardinal virtues, being justice, prudence, temperance, and fortitude. These are sometimes called natural virtues. Justice is the observance of divine law, is moral rightness, equity, fairness, and honor. It relates to good reasoning, fair handling, and due reward or treatment. It also relates to the administration of the procedure of law, as in the apprehension and trial of a lawbreaker. Prudence is the quality or state of being prudent, which is the exercising of sound judgment, characterized by practical wisdom or discretion, and not being extravagant. Care is taken to follow the most politic without being observant, not to commit errors. Also, being judicious and cautious. Temperance is the state or quality of being temperate, which is discipline, habitual moderation. It is the principle or practice of total abstinence from intoxicants, and it's reflected in the character, shows self-control. Fortitude is firmness and strength of mind in the face of pain, peril, and adversity, being patient and constant with courage. And so, with the noble principle of justice in mind, we look at and observe Act 3 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. This act is of particular interest because we must have order and justice in society. If we are to have peace and freedom, and if a brother or sister violates these divine laws, justice must take its course for the good of the nation and for the good of society. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Please one. So we just want to go through some of the obligations of the so-called dead priests and where it's supposed to be that you're looking at this, right? Because again, if we're saying that the priesthood is dead, right, we have to recognize and acknowledge that somebody is going to have to take that up, right? And it's not going to be the people with titles only, right? The divine temple. The temple is the house of Allah and a place where sacred ordinances are administered, with its inscriptive columns extending from the foundation of the earth and reaching high into the heavens, proudly supporting our divine constitutions and principles, the continental and the Moorish American flag. Seated in the Far East. Seated in the Far East is the Grand Sheikh or Grand Sheikhess, adorned in the garb of his or her state of mind. Around him or her are his or her magistrates, ministers, and sheikhs, etc., anointing his or her head with the most important symbol of his or her office: the black fez or turban, the crown of the east, the west, the north, and the south, the universal crown of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. The head of a parade demonstrated by the royal host, he or she is the Grand Marshal. The Grand Sheikh or Sheikhess or Grand Sheikhess establishes regulations according to Act 1, the rules of law on keeping the secrecy of our chambers, initiation of candidates, temple functioning, being an officer and its qualifications, voting, examinations, business meetings by bylaws, finance, dues and funds, funerals, weddings, philanthropy, the widow, the sick, and preparations. The office of the Grand Sheikh and Grand Sheikhess is of the highest order and is the highest officer in our Moorish Muslim society. The office of the Grand Sheikh or Grand Sheikhess is that of our head government officer and religious minister. He or she is responsible for Islamism law being taught as the Prophet Noble Drew Ali received authorization to teach. Ism is a suffix of nouns and means a devotion to and adherence to, and the characteristics and beliefs relative to systems of learning, actions, and behavior. These are promoted and acted upon for the good of society, and thus Moors are guided by the virtues of the same. These principles of action applies to the teachings and instructions, the civic instructions and responsibilities, the symbolic rites, the Moorish rules of conduct, the 5 principles embodying love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which are primal to the universal spirit of justice and right, the scepter representing the sovereign rights of the people, our authority, the charters, the Holy Quran, Circle 7 of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and bylaws, the Constitution of the United States for North America, the supreme law of the land, being an offspring of the ancient principles of Moabite Moorish law adopted for a just, harmonious, and prosperous government. And when these divine principles are violated, reciprocity by nature is summoned and justice must take its course. Let it be known by all whose presence this shall come. The law does injury to no one. All of the foresaid remedial instruments of law are civilization tools for the right guidance of a civil society and universally agreeable with the moral spirit of man. To bring order to where injustice might breed, these laws are instituted for the harmonious maintenance and peace of civilization. For that cause and purpose they were crafted. Thus, they are foundation stones to good and right law, social order. All who desire justice in society recognizes their universal and indispensable values and take no offense to them, knowing that they are to be strictly adhered to for the greater good. The Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess is our official counselor and advisor, being an everlasting father figure, mighty godlike authority, the Prince of Peace, the peacemaker by his prophet. He or she imitates the Prophet Nobujuali in the true intent of his or her work, actions, and deeds. The divine instructions from the Holy Prophet and the 12 acts given to us are the means by which we shall be strengthened and incited to manifest great works and to do good deeds. The Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess is garbed in the robe of his or her office or in Moorish attire when teaching the temple in society or in public. The Grand Sheik or Sheikess is elected to office by the people or appointed by the heads of states, sheiks, etc. The Grand Sheik or Sheikess demonstrates that honor by reading from the everlasting gospel. Not only is the Prophet present in our meetings, moreover, to preserve the spirit of this great humanitarian cause, we keep the Prophet's spirit alive in us and moving in our meetings. The Grand Sheik and Sheikess demonstrates the legal and lawful aspects of all issues, because life and society is fraught with issues of the human condition. The Grand Sheik or Sheikess is a Muslim, a free Moor, and his or her position is that of a prime minister and seeks to maintain the peace, balance, and harmony of society. The Grand Sheiks or Sheikess station corresponds to the sun. He or her noblest virtues are faith, which is wisdom, hope, which is strength, charity, which is love, and all these are moral forces deemed to withstand temptations. The Grand Sheik or Sheikess presides over all meetings through his or her committee chairpersons and convenes special meetings which deem necessary. The Sheik appoints all committees and has the casting vote in all cases of a tie, signs and seals all authorized legal documents presented for his or her signature, and in respect for the services rendered to the nation, he or she shall be exempted from all dues and taxes. The Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess is also ordained to work for the public ministry in the governmental affairs of men, local, state, federal, and international, etc. The Grand Sheik and Grand Sheikess is of a body of legislative, executive, judicial officers who advise sheriffs, mayors, governors, Congress, and the president. The Grand Sheik or Sheikess is the head Moorish representative. Walk in the path which he has opened before thee. He or she is a de jure officer to oversee the duties of each office and regency. In this official capacity, he or she leads the state of ministering sheiks to carry out the law and affairs of the temple, reclamation, baptism, nationalization, membership, etc. The Grand Sheik or Sheikess shall greet one and all after the closing of each service when possible. The Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess of the Moorish society has a national aspect to his or her office as well as a divine and fraternal one. This office he or she assumes under the title of the president. The Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess, divine ministers, national minister, is president of our Moorish society. Our organization of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, which when demonstrated, he or she is the chief executive presiding officer of our living Moorish nation, business, company, corporation, institutions, societies, and temples, etc. Dignity and majesty distinguishes him or her as the Sheik. As chief executive, his or her duties are to faithfully and with clean hands execute the de jure laws pursuant to the supreme law of the land and Act 1 in the courts of men. The Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess is our Moorish society's political leader, magistrate, judge, director, and plenipotentiary. and must provide law knowledge guidance in settling disputes among brothers and sisters using Moorish law and constitutional principles. An assistant grand sheik and council body may be appointed to address grievances, both foreign and domestic, in a Moorish royal court. Any comments, questions?
Are we carrying that activity out here?
Is that to everybody?
You're asking if each of us carries out or conducts ourselves like GS or GSS.
Well, I'm saying almost in essence, are we as an entity carrying all that stuff out? And yes, within the body, we should obviously be, it's mimicking, that's what, I guess that would be, right? Also, it's really at a certain frequency. I think that as part of body politic, are we doing those things that is our activity there? I would say to myself, I'm spending more of my time just trying to survive than doing the works that I think need to be done. But, I mean, I think that the times are even crazier now. One can see that this that's happening now may be a direct response to maybe that answers it. Maybe this is a direct response to the fact that we are starting to galvanize.
Honors to our grand chief, because I know that from the beginning of coming and being around Morris and from coming to class, you've always greeted me. You've always greeted me when I come, you've always greeted me when I exited. And that's something that's constant, and that most Morris here can say I've done the same also when I've been with them also. As pertaining to that class.
Yep. Any other comments, questions?
So, I don't know. Sorry. So when it says that the GS or GS is equivalent to prime minister, like the rest of the world nations know this, right?
Based on how we exercise it. So when we say prime minister or whatever title,
Equivalent to.
yeah, whatever the title is that we're using as the reference point or the parallel, that's with regard to our nation. That's with regard to our society. In our society, the Grand Sheik is like what Trudeau is, correct? In our society, right? But that's only where that applies like that. But then that's why it goes into the other part saying that, the Grand Sheik is also plenipotentiary. And that's supposed to be the one who's going to meet with the other whoever's that call themselves governor, prime minister, or whatever like that, because that's how the CEO always was the CEO. CEO is not meeting no caretaker unless, it's in the washroom and caretaker's in there. But there's not going to be no meeting where Trudeau is meeting with the caretaker of some whatever. The heads always meet with the heads or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? So them knowing it is going to be based on, for example, when Brother Amari got stopped at the border, and then they brought the folder out or whatever like that, and they're like, yeah, we've been watching you guys and all the YouTube videos, screenshots of everything in the little package, them knowing about there's a Grand Sheik and there's a treasurer and there's a secretary and there's whatever by name that they know this, right? Where the address is at, the type of things that we're functioning as, because on the grounds of him even being at that time one of the leadership, they dealt with it as such. Or if you look at in the institutions, and people in the institutions, they might have issues, or they whatever it is, and the chaplain or whoever has to call, they're calling for Grand Chief. The Grand Chief of the Morside stuff, oh yeah, that's myself or whatever. Yeah, so and so said the call about whatever. And they don't debate, am I that, or you know what I mean? How do you get that? And you got some paper to say that, whatever. No, that guy said that. I'm that, so yeah, I guess that's what it is. You know what I'm saying?
It comes from the people, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where the sovereign power comes from. So if they ask all these Moors in here, who's Grand Sheik, and everybody in here says Kudra, then that's probably who it is.
That's like seven when you say court. It's like, oh, so you're a doctor. That's what they say.
Yeah, right. The people said that. That's not right. You know what I mean? He didn't go to school and a paper to say he's a doctor. He healed people. People said, yeah, I guess he's a doctor. You know what I mean? He's gonna be healing. I mean, if I have this lump right here and now it's not here, because of this guy, he's probably right and exact with his position. And then I'm gonna back him in his position, you know what I mean? Which is why he had his, they were talking about their, well, you gotta prove this and all that stuff like that. Bring us 9 people. And then he brought 70 something. Right? So, all right, well, guess we gotta go through all these 77 people and see if this stuff is real. You know what I mean? And obviously in the end, they found it was real. You know what I mean? But they know to the level of the whole sovereignty is based in the people. And then whatever the people say is what it's going to be. Especially if the people are taking the position of, this is not organization, this is national affairs, right? There was even some wars with situations like yours. And that store is called. Yeah, I'm calling from whatever. No frills. Some guy in here saying he's indigenous and all this. He's showing me a card or whatever. He said to call you. Do you know who this is? What's the name on the thing? Oh yeah, we know. Yeah, he's indigenous. Oh, all right, no problem. No issue with take taxes off now. They just did it because there was validation.
Some expats in yes?
Yeah, right. Right. Any other questions, comments? The rainbow, seated in Egypt of the West, is the representative of the second highest authority in the temple, the assistant grand sheik. He or she is a constitutional officer whose duties are to assist the grand sheik or grand sheikess in all affairs, to assist in carrying out the duties, functions, and responsibilities of the temple meetings, both private and public. He or she must see that all is well, clean, and in order before the meeting time and on time. He or she acts before the grand sheik or grand sheikess comes to execute his or her office. The assistant is to assist the grand sheik and grand sheikess in discharging all duties of the temple and perform them according to the laws and customs of the temple. He or she prepares all occasions, Moorish events, celebrations, weddings, funerals, etc., and prepares to receive the grand sheiks or grand sheikess presence, and holding the grand sheikess or grand sheikess presence in high esteem and regard. In the case of the grand sheiks or grand sheikess absence, he or she demonstrates the power and authority of his or her office under the grand sheiks or grand sheikess watchful eyes, ears, or mouth, remembering that he or she will return, and in accord with love, not set in our own ways, stubborn, impatient, and revengeful. Truth, to ask yourself, what is it? What is the truth of this matter issued before me in the absence of the grand sheik or grand sheikess? Peace, to maintain peace at all costs and not to disturb the peace of any or the other divine principles. Freedom, to not let the power and influence of freedom cause you to misuse your authority or use our freedom as a pretext to do evil. justice, to remember that there is someone in authority over you. This will enable you to deal squarely, equitably, and equally in clean hands with every man and woman, sheik and sheikess, adept and resurrector, officer, member, and non-member. The assistant grand sheik or grand sheikess is to fulfill the responsibilities and duties of the office of the grand sheik or grand sheikess and execute the laws accordingly and with impartiality. The assistant grand sheik is to assist the grand sheik or grand sheikess in studying the divine constitution and bylaws in the Holy Quran Circle 7 that is handed down onto him or her. The words and acts and deeds of the grand sheik and grand sheikess are to be that of a good Moorish leader. When you lie down to rest, your conscience will be free from thoughts of you having harmed someone in your words, acts, and deeds. Allah will watch over you and guide your sweet thoughts. When you rise, they will talk with you, that your sweet thoughts may become an idea for good, a redeeming idea, a God-saving power for someone's body and soul. And when you walk, Allah will walk with you to guide your steps. Study the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Chapter 28 and 29 on master and servant, and magistrate and subject. Be it he or she, know that your divine duty is to labor unceasingly for the good of humanity. It is yours to serve in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. To the fatherless, you are a servant. To the widow, you are a servant. And to the less fortunate, you are a comforter and a servant. It is yours to practice mercy, temperance, and forgiveness. It is also yours to be tolerant and to be devoted. The grand sheik or grand sheikess, by virtue of the authority vested in them, delegates to the assistant grand sheik or grand sheikess the honored privilege of investing initiators with various degrees, fezzes, badges, sashes, etc. Right. So again, when we look at the priestly titles that we have in our nation and the duties that those titles hold, everybody should be able to see themselves doing those things with the title or without the title. It's just supposed to be the standard, right? That, you know, it's almost like when we came into this and then we had these different Moors that we were looking at as grand sheik, grand whatever title, Amir or whatever it is, right? They were the standard, but it wasn't some chase them down, sit with them, or whatever like that. It was go show yourself approved, so that when you engage these people, the interaction isn't like some hierarchy. The interaction is eye to eye when we build, because you would have showed yourself approved by studying the information, getting information, applying it on some certain level, and then even in the application of it, the people with the title seeing and say, oh yeah, that over there is actually doing something or whatever like that, good for the nation or for the people or whatever it is, right? That's an obligation, again, that's on everybody, right? That we have to set the bar right here and attain that for everything to run how it's supposed to run, right? Any comments with regard to that one?
When you say here, that's like way above where they're at.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, like if we look at it like 2 or 3 times above, you know, the title, right? If we have to take a step back to get to that place, right? It would be better to do that than to force yourself to try to, when it's not gonna work when you're pressured. You know what I mean? It has to be like the Constitution has to be an organic thing. It can't be GMO. You guarantee GMO powers.
It's beautiful also to see our culture and the perspective that we take on leadership. That it is devotion to the people.
Yeah.
Because all of those things that were read are service
Yeah.
to the people.
Exactly. And when that's how you distinguish between the righteous leader and then the corrupt people.
And as you say that, I was about to use the word corrupt.
Yeah.
I think it was the kingdoms that went to India, and the priests were corrupt. They were corrupt there. So it goes back to the very priest thing.
Yes, it
Yeah.
They were
does.
corrupted in India.
Exactly.
They've gone mad because they stopped serving Allah, they stopped serving the people.
Yep. And that's pivotal with regard to real leadership. Right. There has to be a humanitarian aspect that is not frowned on. You know what I mean? Or, you find a lot of people who are in some type of power position, whether it's organization or whatever like that, there's always some financing attached to it. Well, I'm gonna do it if I get the whatever. You know what I mean? When you talk about CEOs and whatever like that.
It's
Right.
not about the cause.
It's not about the cause, when it's really supposed to be about the cause, because everything is going to fall into place once you're doing it from the humanitarian perspective, right? And then if they're looking at it from the proper perspective, they would see that the idea of being humanitarian is actually creating karmic credit for all the debt that you might have as this quote unquote title. So trust me, as Grand Chief, or people want your head and all that stuff. They don't want you to be in no power and all that, be able to make law, enforce law, when people haven't been doing that for however long. You know what I mean? So when it's like when we came into looking at this thing holistically, and you would have, for example, or you'd have Fortune say, Allah, Mother of the Universe. And then that stuff go online or whatever. And then people are ringing me down. Oh, you guys changed the prayer. You guys violating the prophet. How you change the prayer? You can't do that and all this. What are you talking about? That additional law says you own 5 senses or whatever. So their sense told them, well, if this is matriarchal, why would Allah be a father? I mean, yeah, why would he? Why would he be father? Why would this be a matriarchal thing, but our God's a father? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
And what doesn't make sense is anyone trying to come for anyone's head if they're standing with Allah.
Right. Right.
But how could you be my enemy if we're both standing in Allah?
Right.
Correct.
And if you stand with Allah, you might see yourself as my enemy, but I don't have to.
Damir, before I forget this.
I don't want.
No. Any other comments, questions? The clouds, sitting erect, feet planted firmly, is the first order of the gospel, overlooking all, listening and seeing. The co-chairman and co-chairwoman of the Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, whose duties are many and very important to the divine creed and to the highly venerated principles of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. He or she shall assist the chairman in chairing the public meetings. Once the meeting, hold on. Yes, the pillars of fire. Chief among the grand sheikhs and grand sheikhesses, counselors, and seated north and south of the temple is the chairman or chairwoman of the temple. He or she is empowered to make law and enforce laws pursuant to Act 1 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws and Article 1 and Article 3 of the Constitution for the United States Republic of North America. These laws are imbued with divine justice and are made to express Almighty God's Allah's infinite wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. These laws are in place to keep the people and the temples soundly and morally grounded and stable on their divine constitutional foundations. A just society is a peaceful society. Unity, salvation, Allah, USA. Standing firm as the Moorish Society's National Minister of Affairs, of War, and of Peace, the Grand Sheikh or Grand Sheikhesses muscles the strength of the temple. They zealously wage war against all ignorance, against color of law, against spiritual tyranny, against oppression, standing firm against vices, against weakness, against uncontrolled carnal desires among our members. All of the foresaid failings are unbecoming and against our true ancient Moabite Moorish culture. Lower self-behavior is destructive to anyone who lives the life. Such banal behavior is in stark contrast to good self-discipline and against the will of our divine prophet, Noble Ali. The chairman or chairwoman is commander over the secretary of our Moorish society. He or she chairs all meetings, public and private. He or she notes the issues, the yeas and the nays, and the resolution. He or she implements the law in every matter and issue and sees that the laws are not broken. He or she then consults with the Grand Sheikh or Sheikhess to obtain his or her authority to sanction, to pass the resolution into law for the benefit of the Moorish society and for the uplifting of fallen humanity. The chairman or chairwoman is the third highest ranking member of the Grand Sheikhess or Grand Sheikh staff and is second in order in succession to the office of Grand Sheikh or Grand Sheikhess unless otherwise elected. The chairman or chairwoman has the power to call an emergency meeting at any time and can expect the participation of all parties. This is done to deal with and to handle all domestic problems that may arise among the members. The chairman or chairwoman's duties are to care, upkeep of the temple, and protection of its members and property. Under the direct instructions of the chairman or chairwoman comes the opening of and the closing of the meetings. This is done according to divine constitution, reading of the laws, and with each member holding fiduciary responsibilities, carrying out their function in the temple. For example, co-chairwoman or chairwoman, secretaries, Sunday school instructors, sergeant-at-arms, etc. Over the meetings, the chairman or chairwoman is the presiding officer and must see that all members and visitors are peaceably seated before calling the meeting to order. Again, the chairman or chairwoman is the Grand Sheikh's or Grand Sheikhess's chief advisor and represents the Grand Sheikh or Grand Sheikh at the temple in army, national, public, and governmental matters. This is by virtue of the power and authority according to Act 1 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. The chairman or chairwoman is a dedicated soldier in God Allah's army. He or she is a soldier of love for the people and encourages race pride and to be self-reliant and independent. He or she is a soldier of the great light that seeks to find truth, to set the people's mind free from doubt, mental slavery, hate, and the fear of death. He or she is a soldier of Islamism, applied science, our religion, and works to combat spiritual tyranny with fairness, reason, and truth. He or she is a soldier of freedom and demands that Pharaoh let the people go and to not hinder them in their worship of Almighty God Allah on their own land and under their own vine and fig tree. They hold true to the people's freedom to free votes and to their right to speak with their own free voices. He or she is a soldier of Jesus, which means justice, and strive to have hearts and minds set on fire with love and holy zeal in the performance of his or her duties to Almighty God Allah, to this nation, and to the Moorish society, to the temple, to his or her family, to his or her neighbor, and of course, to himself or herself.
Pull it up, pull it up. Can I get USA again?
United Salvation Allah.
Unity Salvation Allah.
Unity Salvation.
Have any other comments, questions? Well, let me read this one since there's more that as well. The cherub standing erect at the temple entrance door. Everybody just look over there. And overlooking Allah's worshippers. Everybody look over there. Welcoming one and all to come and worship with us, and reading one and all as they enter the temple is our protection. The members of the office of the sergeant at arms or doorkeeper of the house of Allah, who are muftis appointed by the heads of state functioning as a palace guard. The sergeant at arms or doorkeeper station is of vital importance to the security and peace of the temple and its members, for he is the palace guard, guard of the chambers. It is the sergeant of arms who calls the meetings to order 5 minutes before the altar makes call to prayer. It is the office that signals the altar that our meeting can open according to Act 2 of the Divine Constitution. This signal is done by the sergeant of arms sounding Islam. Islam warns the meetings will now come to order. Thus, the assistant sergeant at arms positioned before the altar will also rise. Thus, the altar knows that there is peace in the house. The doorkeepers or mufti's duties are to make known to the altar of visitors that they request an audience with the Grand Sheikh, etc. The mufti also welcomes visitors and seats them comfortably. They also pass out any and all temple written announcements and messages. The doorkeeper shows our temple visitors great hospitality. They show where restrooms are. They get water for the visitors. They hang up coats. They answer all questions. They give out information of future meetings. They escort dignitaries visiting our moral society. These are the tasks of the sergeant at arms or doorkeepers. The sergeant at arms, being muftis, enforces the laws of our moral society and maintains peace at any cost. The sergeant at arms is also in charge of our charter, the symbol of our legislative power and authority. They are to see that the flags are at all times respected and protected. Remember the subversive act of George Washington and the use of the axe removing the cherry tree. Maintaining the general overall security of the temple, building, meeting, and congregation is his or her major responsibility. A letter of introduction is to be made to the county sheriff and to local police department notifying them of our moral society having peace officers operating in accord with our laws, rules, and customs. The office of the sergeant of arms or doorkeepers shall hold the responsibility to keep the temple property, the temple regalia, secured and in good order. They must keep the temple clean, orderly, decent, warm or cool, and comfortable. At the close of the meeting, they shall assure that all temple property is properly secured, and if any property, instruments, or items are ever removed from the temple for any outside function, it is the responsibility of the assigned officer for the return of the same. The sergeant at arms shall, on Friday night service at 9:30 p.m. and Sunday service at 1:30, stand firm for the cause, report the loss or damage of the same. They are to serve all notices on members of the Grand Sheikh or Grand Sheikhess and or Round Table Council. The Sharif is the head mufti and executive officer of that department. He is the mufti in charge of executing official documents, notices, and charges. This is a very, very important office, to guard the doors of our meetings and to permit no one to pass who may be a detriment to the organization or its members and meetings. As the door is under his or her charge, this post should never be vacant, not for an instant. The sergeant at arms or doorkeeper is the servant that King Solomon spoke of when he said, "I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of Allah than a king on Rome's throne." He or she is a servant of the house of Allah. He also is a messenger. When the sergeant at arms or doorkeeper is performing his duties in the temple, nothing is to be taken personally, even when it comes to family members. Your duty is to your Moorish national family. You are a Muslim. When the law is being read, the sergeant at arms or doorkeepers will remain standing in their positions or at their post to demonstrate reverence for the law. Also, the same applies to the hours of the Grand Sheik and Grand Sheikess comes to the altar at public meetings on Friday and Sunday service. The sergeant at arms office will at all times respectfully escort sisters to their cars and be forever helpful. He or she also escorts the Grand Sheik or Grand Sheikess on his or her missionary work. Mufti should always rise when there is movement and be prepared to give his life in protection of his Moorish family. So one reference point with regard to the sergeant at arms or Mufti, when we went to 2 years ago, we did a lecture near Virginia, and the Moors there had temple stuff going on and all that. So the temple meeting was done, and the Moors who I was with one of the divine ministers, Grand Sheik, and chairman, if I'm not mistaken. So we get in the conveyance or whatever. We're just meeting's done. We're just going. I don't know. Can't remember where we're going. Get something to eat or something like that. So we're driving or whatever like that. Maybe about hour and a half, 2 hours after we left the temple meeting, we pull up somewhere, park up, and then car pulls up, parks up next to the car. Mufti gets out. Mufti gets out, comes over to the driver's side. So I was just making sure that y'all are all right or whatever. What do you mean? Like then we left the temple an hour and a half ago, 2 hours. What is it? Well, no, we gotta make sure that you're good or whatever. So I just want to make sure that you're good because I'm about to get out of here right now or whatever like that. So I just want to make sure that you're good before I leave, right? And that was the Grand Sheik's response. How long you been following us for? A good thing. Good thing we weren't doing nothing crazy because the Mufti been behind us the whole time. Good thing we did our job, So that was the level where that was at. Even when we were in Chicago, the Mufti who was there, taking people's bags and stuff like that, and hold the door for people, and people coming into the temple getting greeted, people talking, there's you just have, the one situation was there were some brothers behind us, and dude just had a question or something. It was nothing crazy. It wasn't like, back and forth they were talking or whatever like that. The dude probably had a question. His question was probably I don't know, 10 words, right? By the 5th word, Mufti was out of there. Holding something, and then dude didn't say nothing for the rest of the night. Right? Nothing, no words, like nothing. He's just looking at the front, not going on. So when after they asked me, so what happened? Like you just froze up. Like what's going on? He's like, well, I don't know, but the way he came over and talked to me, like I just didn't want to know what would happen if I kept talking. So I just let me just shut up and not say anything, And it was a Mufti like that, like He was like these, he was like supreme or whatever, He was just these, He had the yellow tassel, and he's the only one with the yellow or whatever. So he's sort of standing out more than anybody else, and he didn't smile at anybody, didn't make any jokes. There was no type of, discrepancy in, okay, that guy is the security. Obviously, that guy is the security. That has to be the guy who's the head of the security or whatever, But that's how serious that it was with us looking at it from the outside, just coming to see what this thing's about. right? Yeah, this is definitely not some religious sin or whatever. This is not how it's portrayed online as, you know, no, Holy Quran, and then we're Moors, no, it was none of that. This was government in action, like never seen it before. You know, like look to the back of the room, Mufti's at the door. On the stage, Mufti's at thing. You know, like we're saying, the Mufti who I had dealt with, the same yellow tassel Mufti. When we got to the temple, he was gonna take the bag. You know, got my bag or whatever. Give me your bag. Do whatever you want with the bag at this point. I don't want no issues or anything like that. You know? You take the bag, do whatever you need to do with the bag. It's okay. I don't have to hold my bag this time. You know? And he was serious about taking the bag. Right?
You know, you're saying that in particular, Tyrone Bay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like him.
Yeah. That's yeah. And at that time he was divine minister of that temple.
Yeah.
And the divine minister position was like Mufti when he was like I say, you already know what Tyrone Bay is, and the voice and everything. Everything was just we're just not no playing around thing or whatever like that. This must be some serious business. If you know the pastor or whatever of the temple is like a Mufti, and not playing no games. And I give you you know what I mean? Wait, there's somebody in here. Who is it? Is it somebody was doing the Hulk handshakes or whatever. Oh yeah, it's Brother Quadro. He was like that. When you get the handshake, you get the crumpled knuckles or whatever like that. Still like like what is this? Like this is what this is about? Like crumpled knuckles every time? Every time. Huh? It's not like one time. Every time. Every time.
To remind you to eat your
Right. And this was from administrative functions. You get that on RV Bay's site, and just going through all the different posts and how important they are. Any comments? Any more comments? You had something?
So that was like, so that's basically how they modeled their little secret service type of thing.
Yeah, to a degree like that.
Not like that, but like I was thinking more like Trudeau, how I seen there's a picture of Trudeau walking through somewhere just recently. And then you notice like these four guys around them all wearing the same outfit, like a golf shirt thing, but then you see the earpiece, right? Trying to be like incognito, but like, they was wearing that.
Yeah.
They were wearing it.
Yeah.
A vest thing with a collared shirt. And I was like, really good.
Yeah. Great. We'll take our reading.
So that's it. It's 4.
From Red Book. Oh no, there's chairman, chairwoman, co-chair, assistant secretary, assistant secretary, treasury or treasurer. We could put this one out too. The word, setting on their points and eager to undertake their tasks of developing underdeveloped mind, these servants of the nation are working in the tools of the mind for the uplifting of fallen humanity. Called to come forth are our honorable and dedicated Morris Society Sunday School instructors, pedologists, and teachers. Veneration and honors to our Moorish educators. Entrusted to these good, moral, upstanding members and citizens of the Moorish nation and temples of science, these dedicated cultivators have taken on a vital role in society. They place their hands and time to the very wealth of our Moorish society. and with certainty they are primary trustees of our Moorish posterity as intellectual nurturers of our Moorish babies. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Divine and National Movement and our redeeming Nabi and guide, instructs us to teach our children early in the way to God Allah, and this path they will not stray from. We as members of the Moorish society must pave the way with zeal and integrity and strive to be positive examples for the youth and for the newly conscious Moors. Simply attending our Sunday school meetings and sending our children to their Sunday school classes is basic to organization supports. The greater it is to be actively productive and demonstrating fruition co-joined with that attendance. Here, the Sunday school teacher has the divine duty of revealing to the child and the parent the gift that Allah has given them, teaching them to make the most of one's God-given talents and to secure adequate compensation, return for one's labor. Our Moorish Society School aims are to recognize, to cultivate, and to stimulate all potentials in a member's abilities and talents and accentuates them by teaching many important skills. Our school provides levels of wisdom, knowledge, and undertaking that helps make students useful and productive members of our Moorish society and of the temples. We teach our members about their religious obligations as members and citizens of this free national republic and present those responsibilities with reason and functionality. We teach the reciprocal need for learning about and respecting the rights of others, benefits of living cooperatively with others of different faith. With proper humanitarian instructions, members should demonstrate and reflect the same in other communities. We also teach the importance of responsible health maintenance of the body. Our Moorish Society School aspires to grow and establish all grades of school, ascending from nursery to kindergarten to elementary to junior to middle to high to college to universities. We also aspire to establish a Moorish Hall of Learning and to constructively organize school boards as needed, etc. Therefore, we recognize that education is important. It not only produces well-rounded members of society, it also promotes confidence and unity. And unity is a necessary component of stimulating national progress. Our Moorish Society School curriculum shall be Islamism covering all aspects of life. Thus, we will address social skills, morals, ethics, arts and sciences, race pride and principles, religious instruction, prayer, fasting, charity, faith and Hajj, political science, republic principles, the divine and national movement, economics, compensation for one's skills, law of reciprocity, culture, knowledge of our past, enabling you to know the present and to foresee a future, jurisprudence, judicial and extrajudicial instruction. This and more shall be done with all the attachments, habits, values, etiquette, and correct attitude. This broad base of education encompasses and accomplishes our way of life, our customs, and from the ancient customs of a people, the common law is derived. The purpose of Moorish education is to restore the ancient Moorish standard of philology, to reinstate high culture disciplines, to reintroduce Moors to many ancient truths once removed by Roman Inquisition policies, to acquire functional knowledge, intellectual disciplines, advocate knowledge of the rights and duties of citizenship, promote the codes of etiquette, enhance individual and family development, institute activities involving vocational training and craftsmanship, and teach the spiritual principles of charter building, etc. Educating and enlightening our members significantly benefits themselves and upholds the nation. It brings integrity to our Moorish society and enhances positive participation in our temples of science. Sunday is the first day of the week and is ruled by the noble sun. The holy name of Sunday is Mikael. Sunday school is our seeding time. The world and the universe is Allah's schoolroom. Our being in school does not make us learn, but within our Moorish society, expansile and studious classes provide the opportunities for all learning. The several liberal arts are Moorish traditions, which include grammar, logic, and rhetoric, plus the 4 subjects of the quadrivium: geometry, astronomy, arithmetic, and music. The sciences and arts and the admission to their dispensations are the birthright of every member, and the graduates of higher learning are prepared as future teachers. From our Sunday schools comes the guiders of the nation. For this reason, the Sunday school teacher allows all members to exercise their 5 senses. Members are also allowed time during Sunday class to demonstrate any special products or lessons that they have learned or have been working on. An instructor or teacher will meet with the member who prepared a display prior to class time to demonstrate and clear up any potential faults, misgivings, or errors in the demonstration. This should promote good order, confidence, and correctness. The more Sunday school instructors, pedagogues, or teachers will encourage and allow members to bring out history books and lessons that we may go into the deeper meanings and relationships about people, nations, and events in history. However, the deeper aspects and meanings of the law are reserved for the respective chambers. Our Morris Sunday school classes are to lay the foundations for members and visitors, etc. Here, the basics are taught, and care is taken not to confuse anyone or group. Answering all questions that may be asked, answering in the first degree, while enlightening the class with the discipline, subject matter, or issue at hand. We are demonstrating a broad-based education with the refined consciousness of dissolving that destructive, vague, or misguided state of mind that deludes to slavery. And so we are encouraging and promoting those positive acts and teachings that relate to the positive, constructive, beneficial, uplifting, social, upstanding, and progressive significance of Moorish life. Adherence to these precepts will manifest an honorable Moorish nation. The children's Sunday school teacher has, among other duties and responsibilities, the option of implementing youth cadet instructions, youth sergeant-at-arms training, or other youth programs. They shall be prepared in a realistic manner, for they are the future guiders of the nation. Teachers may also establish reserve officers training corps, choirs, drill teams, business clubs, or marine training, etc. It's not. Any comments, questions on that? I know y'all been at school or whatever, if if that.
It's like
I know those more is gonna be coming at y'all. Why is it on a Saturday? It's supposed to be on a Sunday. We can't have it on a Saturday. Yeah, we can.
on a Saturday and Sunday.
Right? What you doing away from the door? What you doing? Left the post.
That's like a whole curriculum.
Yeah.
Right there that
Yeah.
and that's almost the opposite of what they give the children in their system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely opposite.
Yeah.
Like on purpose.
Yeah.
Opposite.
Which is why we need
Great.
it only makes sense that we have our own stuff, because
Bring her stuff back. Like it was taken away.
Yeah.
On purpose for a reason. And it says right there that we read that going that direction leads to what? Enslavement.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So
Yep. Straight up. So I read in today chapter 21 of the Red Book. Joshua the prophet had finished his task and must now go to the sons of men with love divine and peace on earth. The work of Joshua was done, and now he must go to teach the sons of men. And in the temple he stood and said, "The Son of Man has come to bring the light of life." And all the brothers stood and said, "This is a royal day for all the hosts of the earth. For salvation has come to all the children of men. 6 times before the bar, 6 times a conqueror. And then one said to Joshua, brother man, most excellent of men, in all the temple tests you have won out. Upon your brow I place this diadem, and in the great assembly of all the world in heaven, you are the mastermind of all. Now man can do no more, but Allah himself will speak and confirm your title. Go your way and teach peace on earth, goodwill to men. And while the Hierophant yet spoke to the temple, bells rang out in love, and the Logos journeyed on his way a conqueror. So it's similar to here with us getting the info. Once we get it, then it's about out there with it. And then in here with it is about us building with each other, sharpening our tools or whatever, whether it's hammer, scimitar, axe, or whatever like that. So when you go out there, you have some weapons to battle the demons out there and the zombies and whatever else.
I just wanted to diadem, a jeweled crown or a headband worn as a symbol of sovereignty.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So diadem, D-I-A-D-E-M.
Pass all
Yeah.
things that place this diadem on your brow.
Yeah.
It's a crown, a jeweled crown or headband worn as a symbol of sovereignty.
Right. So not worn as a symbol of you went through the attic chamber and now you're the Allah's son. Not walk through because of some type of religious whatever, because he went through all these trials and tribulations and the 40 days, 40 nights and whatever like that. Sovereignty. Right? And then this is where it goes in with Drew Ali and him having his crown with the jewel on it, with the feather on it and all that stuff. And then you go through time and you see that that's a regular thing. Diadem, when you get to a certain level, you get your stuff. You know what I mean? And then we all know the jewel is the pineal gland, so how is now the pineal gland is relative to sovereignty. All right, it's pineal gland a whole different thing. If sovereignty is the crown that they give you. Any questions or comments for the honor this on television? Any comments, questions? Anyone has got any? Especially the new people. Any questions right there? Good.
It's a random thing. So I look at some pictures. Remember when that mace thing came up and I was like, was it a mace or scepter or whatever? So I was looking at some of the stuff that they have. That crown that the Queen of England wears, that's a purple fez that's wrapped
with something. Yeah. Yeah.
Like accessorized with a silver.
Yeah, silver thing around it.
Yes, it's not purple.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's just a purple fez.
Yeah.
Like stop this.
Right. But that's why they push the whole sovereign power thing.
But it's all been copied. Even if you look at the PR and how the heads are arranged.
I did not know that was a fez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't know what a fez was 20 years ago.
And then when you're looking at that too, you also have in the oral statements with Drawley talking about wearing the purple, and then he's clothes with purple and whatever like that. And purple represents the sovereign power and not. And then these people got the purple fez under the thing. Somebody knows what's going on, and priesthood is dead. So you're not knowing unless, like you say, you take the place. And then you go find out the stuff for yourself. But these people ain't telling what's up. You're either going to go find out through research, study, and whatever, or you're not going to know. And it's simple as that. Because again, we go back to the lesson. Yeah, you can be told whatever. Man knows not by being told. Man knows by going out there, do some research, you know, do some fact checking, and then you know something. You know? You can talk on now.
Oh, come on now,
Yeah,
sir.
you can talk. You can just stand around and
Did you do with Brother Alfonso on Build Divine, that chapter?
no.
Because him and I were building on that. And then here you are reading this quite nice.
On which the same Red Book chapter?
Yeah.
Okay, bro.
Yeah. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that was a lie. It had nothing to do with me. That was a lie. That had nothing to do with it. Well, Reese. Any other comments, questions? It's your time, bro.
All more space to east. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my
my
guide, and my salvation.
my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day,
through this holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
no duality,
no duality,
Islam.
Islam.
And don't forget, next week, Mars, we're going to be at Hyde Park for our last, one of our last in the park series. So we'll get an email out with regard to where we're meeting up and stuff. Islam, Mars. That's a good one. This is a good fight. Plus, is it? All right, thanks. Islam. Huh? What's that? Oh yeah. No, it's right. Yeah. We don't have it here.
I want to get that.
But there's the
Oh, I just looking at something in the eye. I like.
the thing has the die
That
cast.
crystal.
Islam to the Moors in the chat. Peace and love. I can give you the contact for the brother who made